Welcome, you curious minds, to another deep dive.
Hey, everyone.
Today, we're really diving into something fascinating in the world of guitar effects. Specifically, I think one of the most innovative modulation pedals ever, the Pigtronix envelope phaser.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. A real classic in its own right.
Definitely. We've been immersing ourselves in the history of this amazing device, pulling info from our sources, including some really detailed bits from the Pigtronix envelope phaser, an exhaustive history. So our mission today is basically to peel back the layers of its unique design, figure out the incredible sounds it made, and, uncover why it got this kind of cult status among musicians.
Yeah, it definitely has that reputation.
Get ready to discover how one pedal managed to blend that vintage sound inspiration with some really groundbreaking modern control.
It's a cool story.
Okay, so to really get this Pigtronix envelope phaser, we kind of need to set the scene, right?
Yeah.
When did this thing first pop up, and what was the guitar effects world like back then?
Right. Well, it was absolutely a period of huge innovation.
Yeah.
A real renaissance, you could say, for guitar effects. Yeah. Especially what we now call the boutique pedal boom.
Ah, the boutique boom.
Mid-2000s. Exactly. We're talking mid-2000s. Builders were seriously pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Revisiting old classic circuits, but also just dreaming up new stuff, really thinking about how effects could interact with how you play.
So musicians were looking for something different.
Yeah, they were hungry for unique sounds, stuff that went beyond the big mass-produced boxes. And smaller companies were jumping in with loads of creativity, good craftsmanship. It was a really fertile time, and right in the middle of all that buzz, that's when the Pigtronix envelope phaser arrived.
Okay, so kind of the perfect storm for a pedal trying to do something new. And Pigtronix itself, what was their deal? What was their angle when they jumped into this scene?
Well, Pigtronix, founded back in New York by David Koltai and Brian Bethke, they carved out a niche pretty quickly. They had a clear mission. They weren't just cloning old stuff. They aimed to make what they called feature-rich analog meets modern hybrid pedals.
Analog meets modern hybrid. Okay, what did that actually mean?
It basically meant taking those warm, organic, pure analog sounds that guitarists really love, and then merging them with modern control, versatility, and importantly, a really robust design that felt current.
Right. Built for the road.
Totally. Think of it like giving a classic muscle car a top-notch navigation system and adaptive suspension. They wanted studio-level tones, complex tones, but in a rugged box you could stomp on every night.
Analog meets modern hybrid.
Yeah, that really sums it up nicely. It captures that whole vibe. So, okay, with that philosophy, how did that apply specifically to the envelope phaser? What was the core idea? And were they looking at any specific old pedals for inspiration?
Yeah, precisely. The main concept for the envelope phaser was honestly pretty revolutionary for phasers at the time. It was about seamlessly merging that classic swirly modulation sound we all know.
The swoosh. The swoosh, exactly. Merging that with genuinely dynamic, touch-sensitive envelope control. And yeah, they definitely tipped their hats to some giants. Inspirations like the Electro-Harmonix Polyphase.
Ah, the Polyphase. A legend.
Absolutely. And the Love Tone Doppelganger, too. Both known for these huge, lush, expansive sounds. But the key innovation, and what Pigtronix really got right about the market then, was putting these super rich, complex sounds into a, more pedal board-friendly format.
Right, the practical side.
Yeah. Players wanted those big sounds, but they didn't want, a pedal the size of a briefcase taking up half their board. Pigtronix aimed to kind of democratize that complex modulation, make it accessible and tough enough for gigging.
The classic musician's problem. Sounds amazing, but will it actually fit on my board? And can I afford the space? That makes total sense, especially as boards got way more complex in the mid-2000s.
Okay, let's pop the hood then. Let's really dig into what made this phaser tick internally.
Yeah.
The circuit, the engine room, what set it apart. Okay, so underneath it all, the Pigtronix envelope phaser had what they called an analog phaser core. Proudly analog.
All analog, nice.
Yeah, a carefully designed circuit delivering that warm, organic, almost kind of vocal phasing people love. And importantly, it used optical phasing.
Optical, what does that mean for the sound?
So for those not deep into circuits, optical just means it uses light and light-sensitive parts, usually LDRs in a bulb or LED, to create the suite. This often gives you a smoother, more liquid, almost watery texture compared to some other phaser types like OTA-based ones, and usually quieter too. It gave it a really distinct, pleasing character.
Okay, smooth and liquidy. Got it.
But the real game changer, the truly groundbreaking part, was its dual modulation sources. This wasn't just your standard one-knob phaser sweep.
Dual modulation. Okay, that sounds like a big deal for versatility. It suggests way more control than most phasers offered, right? Break down those two sources for us. How did they work?
Absolutely. So the first source was the familiar LFO low-frequency oscillator. Standard stuff.
Right, the regular sweep.
Exactly. Gives you that standard rhythmic sweep, the consistent whoosh or swirl. You could dial in the speed, slow and syrupy or fast and warbly with the speed knob, and how intense it was with the depth knob. Pretty standard LFO controls.
Okay. And the second source?
The second source, and this is where the magic really happens, was the envelope follower.
Ah, okay. Like on an envelope filter or auto-wah?
Precisely. It made the phaser sweep react directly, dynamically, to how hard you played. Hit the strings hard, the phaser reacts more strongly, more sweep. Play soft, it backs off.
Wow.
Yeah. It meant the effect wasn't just there, it was like a living part of your playing, responding to you in real time.
So it's not just a fixed speed, it actually listens to your attack, the little nuances.
Yeah.
That must have opened up a ton of creative possibilities.
Oh, totally.
And you mentioned blending options, so you weren't stuck with just LFO or envelope, you could mix them.
It's exactly right. Pigtronix gave players total freedom with what they call blending options. You could use just the LFO for classic phase sounds. Fine. Or switch to just the envelope for that dynamic, touch-sensitive thing, kind of like an auto-wah metaphaser.
Okay.
But the real sweet spot, and where this pedal really made its mark, was blending both.
Ah, now that sounds interesting.
Yeah. This blending created what they described as complex, interactive sweeps. They felt way more organic, more expressive, more alive than most phasers out there. Imagine, like the LFO giving this steady pulse underneath, while your playing dynamics make it jump and react on top. There's a whole new level of sonic control in real time.
That sounds like immense creative power. It really turns the phaser from just an effect into like a playable instrument itself. So to actually use all this potential, what knobs and switches did you have? What controls were there to shape the sound?
The controls were pretty comprehensive, yeah. You could really sculpt things. Obviously, you had speed for the LFO rate and depth for the overall intensity of the modulation.
Standard stuff.
Right, but then you had sensitivity. That was key for the envelope side. It dialed in exactly how strongly the envelope follower reacted to your playing. You could set it really subtle or make it super responsive and dramatic.
Okay, makes sense.
Then there was the staccato glide switch. This was a really smart touch. It adjusted the envelope's response time, how fast it reacted. Staccato mode made the phaser snap really quickly to your attack. Fast, percussive.
Right.
Glide mode gave it a slower, smoother, almost more liquid rise and fall. So you got two very different feels just from that one switch.
Ah, cool. Attack and release, kind of.
Sorta, yeah, influencing the envelope's timing. And finally, resonance feedback. This basically intensified the notches in the phaser sweep.
The notches?
Yeah, those are the peaks and valleys in the frequency response that give a phaser its characteristic whoosh, or sometimes that vowel-like sound. Turning up the resonance made those notches sharper, more pronounced. It could get really intense, almost vocal or even synth-like.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of control packed in there. It really sounds like you could sculpt a sound, not just pick one. So with all those controls, blending the LFO and envelope,
Yeah.
what did it actually sound like? What kind of sonic worlds could you create?
Oh man, the range was huge. Truly diverse, really expressive, just as a straight phaser. It gave you that classic warm analog swoosh, rich resonance, could be subtle or really deep and immersive.
Yeah.
Classic phaser goodness.
Gotcha.
But then switch over to just the envelope filter mode and it gets super quacky and funky. It responded incredibly well to picking dynamics, like a good auto-wah, but with that phasey coloration underneath.
Funky, I like it.
Yeah. But the real magic, what really defined it for a lot of people, was blending those things. It created these organic evolving textures that just flowed effortlessly between sounding like a wah, sounding like a phaser, and sounding like a really sophisticated auto filter.
So it blurred the lines between effects.
Totally. It offered this unique, expressive palette. You could get anything from like subtle movement or wild synth-like chaos, depending on settings. Dial in a gentle atmospheric swell, or crank it up for screaming, pulsing, throbbing sounds that reacted to every note. It really broadened what people thought a phaser could do.
Subtle movement or wild synth chaos. That range alone tells you a lot about why people liked it. So much ground covered. Okay, so we've got its birth, its insides, the sounds. Did it stick around in that original form, or did it change over time? What was its market journey like?
It definitely saw a significant evolution. The original envelope phaser, the first one from the mid-2000s, was that big box pedal. Housed the full control set we talked about. A pretty chunky unit, reflecting all the analog goodness inside.
Yeah, those older Pigtronix pedals were substantial.
They were. But, the pedal market kept changing. Players wanted smaller stuff for their increasingly packed pedal boards. So Pigtronix listened. They later brought out the envelope phaser 2.
Okay, MKRI.
Much smaller enclosure, yeah. Streamlined. But crucially, they kept the core concept, that dual modulation heart. It was refined specifically for, as they put it, pedal board practicality. Maybe a few minor control tweaks to fit the smaller box, but it mostly kept that signature sound and interactive feel, just repackaged for the modern player's board.
Makes sense. And what about now? Can you still buy them new? Or are they history?
Unfortunately, both versions are no longer in production.
Ah, shame.
Yeah, it happens. Boutique world, component sourcing, shifting priorities, market changes, whatever. But its discontinuation definitely hasn't made it less desirable.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite.
But people still want them.
Oh, yeah. These pedals remain highly sought after on the used market, often fetching premium prices, which really says something about their lasting quality, their unique thing, and the fact that, nothing else does exactly what they did.
Highly sought after is often code for expensive and hard to find, as many of you listening probably know. So, okay, what did this mean for actual musicians using it? Who grabbed onto this pedal? What kind of impact did it make?
The impact was pretty big, actually, and surprisingly wide. It found a really loyal following across different genres. Jam band guitarists, for instance, were super early adopters. They loved it.
Why them specifically?
They were instantly drawn to those dynamic, touch-sensitive sweeps. It let them kind of emulate and build on those psychedelic evolving tones, like Jerry Garcia used with his old polyphase. This gave them that liquid vibe, but with way more responsive control. It reacted to their improv. Then you had funk players. They went nuts for its unique, envelope-driven auto-wah phasing.
The quack factor again.
Totally. It let them create these super groovy percussive filter sounds that track their tight rhythms perfectly. Added this distinct rhythmic pulse, almost a vocal quality to the riffs. Imagine a wah, a phaser, an envelope filter all mashed together and reacting to your pick attack. That's the kind of expressive thing it offered funk players.
That's a pretty broad church already. Jam bands and funk. Did it reach into other areas, like more experimental stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Experimental and ambient musicians found tons of inspiration in blending the LFO and the envelope. That ability created constantly shifting, evolving textures and soundscapes that, honestly, very few other pedals could touch.
So, like, for sound design.
Exactly. You could make sound effects that seemed to breathe and pulse, or drone textures that subtly changed over minutes. It was a powerful tool for just exploring sound.
And was it just guitarists, or did other instrumentalists find a use for it?
That's a great question. It actually gained a lot of traction, became something of a bassist's secret weapon.
Really? Interesting. Why bassists?
Well, its envelope tracking was really good, even with low frequencies, and it didn't seem to lose low end or get muddy, which is crucial for bass. So it worked beautifully as this funky, really responsive filter for bass guitar. That resonance control especially let bassists style in these really fat, pronounced, unique filtered tones that could cut through a mix but still sound huge. Yeah, it really broadened its appeal and cemented its reputation as just a really versatile, useful effect, not just a one-trick pony for guitar solos.
Finding a voice on bass, too, that's definitely a sign of a well-designed, versatile pedal. So thinking bigger picture, its cultural impact in the pedal world. Did it change how people thought about phasers? Influence other builders?
Culturally, yeah, I think it did. A lot of players immediately saw the Pigtronix envelope phaser as kind of the modern polyphase, like the spiritual successor to that old EHX classic.
But better, maybe? Or just different?
Well, they definitely appreciated its more modern flexibility, way more control, those blending options we talked about. Plus, it had rugged build quality and used standard power, which made it way more practical and reliable for gigging than some vintage units.
Right, reliability counts.
For sure. And it really helped cement Pigtronix's reputation in that whole boutique scene early on. It stood right alongside their Philosopher's Tone compressor and the Ecolution delay as like flagship pedals that showed what they were about innovation, quality, deep features.
So a key part of their identity.
Absolutely. And even though it's discontinued now, it's still a cult favorite, especially for players who want more than just a simple one sound phaser. people who really want to interact with their modulation. Originals and the smaller MKII, they still pop up on the used market at premium prices. And that premium price, really, for any gear, that's the ultimate sign of its lasting value, its unique sound. It filled a niche, and nothing else has quite replaced it.
What an incredible journey into the Pigtronix envelope phaser. It really does stand out, doesn't it? As one of the most versatile, most expressive phasers ever created. Just brilliantly bridging that gap between the old school vintage swoosh and this modern, almost synth-like modulation really cemented its place as a modern cult classic.
Yeah, it truly empowered musicians, didn't it? To perform their modulation, turned it from just a static effect into something dynamic, an extension of how they played. You used to need way more complicated rigs to get that kind of interaction.
Exactly. It put that power right there in one box. So for you, our curious listener, here's something to chew on. In this age we live in, with constant new pedal releases, amazing digital emulations of everything, what does this enduring, almost like feverish desire for specific, discontinued analog gear like the Pigtronix envelope phaser tell us? What does it say about our human connection to unique sonic tools? And maybe about the lasting value of really innovative hands-on control in the whole world of making music?
That's a deep one to end on. Something to think about for sure.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.